dear students, myself Jagpreet Kaur is going to teach you grade 6 science chapter number 9. In the previous video, I had started the chapter number 9, that is the living organisms characteristics and habitats. In the last video, I had started the topic the characteristics of the living organisms. In that, I have explained you 3 characteristics, that is, first one is nutrition. Means living organisms need nutrition to survive. Okay, and this nutrition we get from the food. Next characteristic I have explained you, that is growth. Means the living organisms, they grow. Time to time they grow. Means how they grow? By the division of the cells. जब हमारी बॉडी के जो सेल्स हैं वो डिवाइड करते हैं तब लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म में ग्रोथ होती है. थर्ड कैरेक्टरिस्टिक इज respiration. Means all living organisms, they do respire, they breathe, and there are the different mechanisms of the respiration in humans and the varieties of the animals. In that I have explained you the example of earthworm. Means the earthworm, they respire from their skin. The fish, they respire from their gills, and the human, we respire from our lungs. So there are the different mechanisms of the respirations that is taking place in the different living organisms. Now in this video I will continue that topic, that is characteristics of the living organisms. Means the 3 characteristics I will explain you. Now the next characteristics I will explain, that is response to stimuli, and the other characteristics are also there. So let's begin. So the next characteristic of a living organism is response to stimulus. Okay. So now what happened? What is the stimulus? Stimulus means to show any reaction against any particular surrounding habitat, और कोई भी एक condition में आप क्या करते हैं, जो reaction दिखाते हैं, that is the stimulus. So changes in our surroundings that makes us respond to them are called stimulus or stimuli. कोई भी हमारे सराउंडिंग में अगर चेंज हो रही है, चेंज हो रहा है, और उसके अगेंस्ट अगर हम कोई रिएक्शन दिखाते हैं, कोई रिस्पॉन्ड दिखाते हैं, तो हम उसे क्या कहते हैं, स्टिमुलाई. ओके, सो ऑल लिविंग बीइंग्स रिएक्ट टू चेंजेस इन देयर सराउंडिंग्स. जितने भी ह्यूमन बीइंग्स हैं या फिर जो लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स हैं, ईच एंड एवरी लिविंग थिंग्स, लिविंग बीइंग्स, दे रिस्पॉन्ड टू देयर सराउंडिंग्स. ओके, the example is in response to increased temperature in summer, we use fans to cool our homes. For example, जैसे गर्मी के दिन होते हैं, तो गर्मी के टाइम पे we feel very hot. Okay, तो हम उसके response में कैसे वर्क करते हैं? We switch on the fans, ताकि हमारे जो घर है या फिर जो हमारा रूम है वो क्या हो, ठंडा हो जाए. So that is the how we are reacting against the summer or the increase of the temperature. Against the increase of the temperature, that is how we are responding. Okay. So the next characteristic of a living organisms is reproduction. So let's discuss that. Now the next characteristic is the reproduction. So all living organisms give rise to new organisms of their own kind by a process called reproduction. Means जो भी living organisms हैं, they reproduce their young ones और जो उनके जैसे ही दिखते हैं. Okay, so that's why it is written here the organisms of their own kind. So a process is called the reproduction. जिस process से new generation बनती है या rise up होती है, that is known as the reproduction. So now there are the different varieties of the living organisms, like animals are there, plants are there. Okay, in animals there are some different varieties are there, different species are there. So the way respiration is different, the same way the reproduction system process is also different. For example, let's see, some animals produce their young ones through eggs. Okay, some of the animals are there that they produce their young ones through their eggs. Means some animals they lay eggs to produce their young ones. Okay, some give birth to the young ones. Means some of the animals are there that they give a birth to the young ones. Okay, so now if we talk about the plant, how the plant reproduce. Some of the plant they reproduce by their seeds, but some are the plants which reproduce by other than the seeds. So some plants also produce through parts other than seeds. Example is examples जो कि सीड से अलग कोई एक प्रोसेस है. ओके, उससे कैसे यंग वंस या फिर उन्हीं के जैसे दूसरा प्रोडक्शन कैसे होता है. सो द एग्जाम्पल इज द पोटैटो. ठीक है, अगर आप पोटैटो को देखेंगे, इफ यू कीप अ सिंगल पोटैटो फॉर 10 days और फॉर अ वीक और 15 days, डिपेंड्स ऑन द क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशन ऑल्सो. तो उसमें से आपको क्या दिखेगा, जो पुराना आलू होता है, द ओल्ड पोटैटो, उसमें से आपको बर्ड्स राइज अप होती दिखेंगी, एंड फ्रॉम दैट बर्ड्स अ न्यू पोटैटो कैन राइज. सो नाउ देयर आर द डिफरेंट process. Okay, so through which the plants can be produced. So some plants also produce through parts other than seeds. Some of the plants are there which produce through seeds, and some are the plants which produce other than the seeds. So example is the potato. Now moving to a next characteristic of a living organisms, that is excretion. So the next characteristic is the excretion. Means all living things take food. Not all the food that is eaten is really used. Only a part of it is utilized by the body. So the food that is we are taking, okay, जो हम food लेते हैं, जो हम food खाते हैं, तो उसका सारा part utilize नहीं होता है from our body. Only some part are utilized from our body, and rest, the remaining is become as a waste for our body. So unused, or we can say the remaining food becomes waste and needs to be excreted. Okay, so the remaining waste which is not utilized by our body, okay, which is not needed by our body, okay, so that is the waste, and that waste is needed to be excreted out, or we can say to remove out from our body. Okay, so living organisms get rid of all this waste materials, and the process is known as excretions. So there is a process of removal of the waste from our body, and that process is known as the excretion. So now moving to our next characteristic of a living organisms, that is the movement. So now the last characteristic of a living organism is the movement. In the previous chapter, or we can say in the last chapter, that is chapter number 8, I have explained you the chapter body movement. In that I have explained you that the living organisms means how the movement takes place in our body, or we can say in other living organisms. Okay, so now in this, animals move from one place to another and also show other body movements. Okay, so the living organisms, if we talk about the living organisms, that is the animals. Okay, so animals, they generally show the movement from one place to another. Okay, if they want to move, they want to go from one place to another, so generally what happened, उनकी जो पूरी body है, they show the movement. Okay, and the human also, we also show some movement. Here if I have written this, means the movement is taking place. I am speaking, means the movement is taking place. Okay, so all the living organisms, they shows the movement, but not the non-living things. Okay, so plants are generally anchored in the soil, so they do not move from one place to another. Okay, as I have told you that the plants are anchored to the soil with the help of roots. ठीक है, जो रूट्स की हेल्प से आपके जो प्लांट्स है वो सॉइल में क्या करते हैं, एंकर करते हैं, यानी कि उसको पकड़ के रखते हैं, होल्ड करके रखते हैं इन अ सिंगल प्लेस. ओके, now if we talk about कि living organisms will shows the movement, but the plants, they do not move from one place to another. So how we can say them as in living organisms? So in that beta, I have explained you that from the roots, generally what the plants do, from the roots, the plant, they absorb minerals and the water from the soil. Okay, so means the working is working हो रही है body में, plants में working हो रही है for their synthesis of the food. They are just absorbing the minerals and the water from the soil. Okay, so क्या हो रहा है, movement तो show हो रहा है. That is the different thing, that the plant is not moving from one place to another, but the function is taking place in the plants. जो functioning है वो तो plant में हो रही है. So it is also in the living thing. Okay, how? Another, but the various substance like water, okay, minerals and food synthesized by the plants move from one part to other part of the plant. जो भी minerals हैं, water that are absorbed by the roots of the plant, and the food that are synthesized by the plants, they are moving from one part to other part. So now this topic, that is the characteristic of the living organisms, is over. Now the next topic is adaptation. So our new topic is the adaptation. Okay, means adaptation means according to the surrounding. Okay, जो भी हमारे surrounds में present है चीजें, उसके according हम उसके जो features that we are, the specific features we can say that we are adapting, that is ठीक है, known as the adaptation. Means for example, the weather of this city, okay, means the weather of this city is not so cold, or we can say उतनी गर्मी भी नहीं होती है, but हम क्या कर रहे हैं, हम we can easily survive in this climatic condition. Okay, so means we have adapted that the climatic conditions of this city. If we move to other city, like if we go to Rajasthan, okay, so their climatic condition is डिफरेंट. वहाँ पे क्या होती है, गर्मी बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. अगर हम यहाँ से वहाँ जाएंगे, सो दैट वी विल फील डिफिकल्टी टू survive in that climatic conditions. Okay, so if slowly if we will live there for a long period of time, then we will adapt that climatic conditions. तब हम वो climatic condition को adapt कर सकते हैं, कर चुके होते हैं, and after few period of the time, okay, after long period of the time, we can say that we can survive in that climatic condition also. Means हम कहीं भी जाते हैं, ठीक है, तो हम वहाँ की climatic condition है या कोई भी हमारे surrounding में जो भी चीज़ें हैं उसे हम क्या कर लेते हैं, adapt कर लेते हैं. Okay, so let's start. The presence of specific features or certain habits which enable a plant or an animal to live in its surroundings is called adaptation. Okay, means जो कि specific features present हैं, हम कहीं भी रहते हैं, कहीं भी जा रहे हैं, अगर वहाँ का या उस सिटी का, उस एरिया का जो क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशन है या फिर जो सराउंडिंग है उसे हम एडप्ट कर लेते हैं टू सर्वाइव देयर, सो दैट इज नोन एज द adaptation. Okay, so for example, fish have slippery scales, okay, on their bodies. These scales protect their fish and also help in easy movement through water. Okay, जैसे for example, this is a fish. Okay, fish में क्या होती है, slippery scales present होती है like this. Okay, so like this scales present होती हैं fish में. So these are the slippery scales and these scales protect the fish and also helps in easy movement through water. Okay, जो ये slippery scales हैं ये fish को water में से swim करने में help करती है और to pass through the water. Okay, another adaptation that is by the fish is the presence of the gills. Okay, as I have told you that the characteristic of a living organism is to respire. Okay, living organisms को respiration is a very important character and without respiration no living organisms can survive. तो अगर पानी में है fish, so for that if the lungs present होते हैं, okay, for example we human beings हमारे पास क्या होते हैं, lungs होते हैं, ठीक है. if we go inside the water, okay, तो हम लोग क्या है, we cannot breathe in. अगर हम breathe करने में कोशिश करते हैं then the water goes inside our lungs and we cannot breathe and we can even die. okay, जो हमारी lungs है उसमें water घुस जाता है, water जब अंदर चल जाएगा so we can die. But in fish the adaptation is taken okay by the fish, that is the gills. fish में क्या बने, gills बने, so that they can easily survive inside the water. okay, they can breathe and they can live their life. So this is known as the adaptation. Now in the next video I will explain you the habitats and the abiotic and the biotic components and the terrestrial animal and the aquatic animals, means the different the habitats and the surviving of the animals. So Till then, take care, stay safe, stay healthy.